Hello and Namaste. Having been brought up in Tamil Nadu, columns were part of my growing up years. We used to make columns in front of our house every dawn with rice powder. The month of Margali, that is mid-December to January, used to be the peak season. We used to compete with our neighbors on who made the best kolam. Kolam making is an ancient art form which has been passed down generations of women. Some believe that this tradition started in the Indus Valley 4000 years back. The earliest literary references to kolam is from 16th century texts. Regardless of when it started, it is a beautiful art form which teaches many things. My mother told me that it is meant to feed the insects and birds. It is our way of giving back to nature. It also teaches that all things are ephemeral. How much ever effort you put into making a beautiful kolam, you cannot own it or keep it. In the course of the day, it slowly and eventually gets destroyed. These are all wonderful life lessons. But did you know that columns contain mathematical concepts like symmetry, fractals and infinity? All columns are made by creating a matrix of dots like this. This is different from the Rangoli practiced in North India. This is very unique to Tamil Nadu. You make a kolam by either connecting the dots like this or circling the dots like this. This is how a finished kolam with the connected dots looks like. Here is how a kolam with encircled dots looks like. A kolam with encircled dots is called a chikku kolam. What you see on my puja room wall is also a chikku kolam. Just look at this kolam. If you draw a horizontal line right at the center, you will see that one half of the kolam is a mirror image of the other. This is called line symmetry or mirror symmetry in mathematics. The concept of symmetry is widely used in the study of geometry. In this kolam, there is only one line symmetry. Most common columns have more than one symmetries. Here's another kolam. You can draw a line horizontally through the center. The left and the right are symmetrical. You can draw a line vertically through the center. The top and bottom are symmetrical. You can draw a line diagonally at 45 degrees. The two halves are symmetrical. You draw a diagonal at 135 degrees and the resultant two halves are symmetrical. There are so many line symmetries in this kolam. Those are not the only symmetries in this kolam. You can rotate it 90 degrees and the kolam will look unchanged. Similarly, rotated by 180 degrees, 270 degrees. Through each of these rotations, the kolam remains unchanged. This is another symmetry called rotational symmetry. It has been determined that 95% of traditional kolam patterns have some form of symmetry. Let's get back to the kolam on my wall. Another feature of the kolam is that it has repeated components. Notice in this kolam the top vertical section. It has repeating patterns. The same unit repeats over and over again. These are what we call fractals in geometry. Fractals are created by repeating a simple pattern over and over again. The entire structure may be very complex, but every element is a simple repeating pattern. Here's an example of another kolam. This is a more complex kolam using fractals. Each triangular section is a pattern which gets repeated throughout the kolam. You know what is unique about the kolam on my wall? About 80% of this kolam is one continuous line. Look at this kolam. It looks complete, isn't it? Theoretically, there is no limit to how much this kolam can grow. Look at the top. This can be extended infinitely in either directions. Even the vertical components can keep on growing. You can make this longer and make bigger and more complex sections. So when you make a kolam like this, there is an implicit awareness that this is an infinite entity, that you are just capturing a section of infinity. These types of columns are called infinity columns. The most common infinity columns are what we call border columns. Here are some border columns for you. These columns are drawn on either side of a central column. Columns are also classified into families based on the underlying patterns. Take this column for example. The bottom section is a simple pattern. You can see the simple pattern here. And notice this pattern. This is just a complex version of this simple pattern. It just occurs by repeating and expanding the simpler pattern at the bottom. So these type of columns are called families of columns. It is possible to start from a basic unit and expand into more and more complex structure with the same underlying pattern. Here are some more examples. The top figure is a simple component and it becomes increasingly complex as we go down. Computer scientists have also used this type of column families to teach computers about fundamentals of languages. Column designs can be studied as a picture language. What is a language after all? You have a set of basic units and a set of rules for combining them. That's all. If you take English language for example, all the words in the dictionary are the units of the language. Grammar rules give you the rules of putting these units together. Technically, you can teach a language to a computer by teaching all the words and the grammar rules. But it is hard to do it with a complex language like English. It is much easier if you have a simple language where you have a few basic components and few simple rules. Column families are an example of such simple languages. They have a set of basic units and rules on how they should be put together. Picture languages like columns are much more simpler than natural language. Their grammar is not complex. So columns are a perfect candidate for teaching languages to computers. You teach a computer how to draw this column for example by defining the rules. Rules for moving from one dot to another and the rules for encircling the dots. Teaching the computer to draw columns gave computer scientists insights into how picture languages function, which they then used to create new languages. Marcia Asher, a professor emerita of mathematics at Ithaca College, has done extensive research on columns. She says, columns are more than a collection of individual patterns. Systematic procedures and techniques unify them. And she concludes, there is no doubt that mathematical ideas are embedded in column tradition with its emphasis on rich symmetry, patterned repetition, closed continuous curves and families of curves. The column tradition is certainly a part of global and ongoing history of mathematical ideas. Columns have attracted the attention of mathematicians across the world. From pictorial visual language called array grammars in computer science to knot traditions in mathematical theory and even infinity, there are more than 20 kinds of different mathematical principles embedded in columns, according to Ms. Devika Nagarajan, another researcher. More than 100 journal articles have been published by mathematicians all over the world who have worked on columns. I'm sharing the links to some of the research papers in the description below. Who would have thought the humble column, which most of us did not even consider an art form, has so much to teach us. The nuanced method of encoding information made it accessible to people at all levels, of different skills and levels of learning. An illiterate woman is able to learn and practice an intricate art. A housewife is able to experience the joy of charity. A philosopher is able to perceive the ephemeral nature of the world. And a mathematician is able to see symmetry and infinity, all in the same column. Isn't that something? Our ancient scholars have used ingenious methods for encoding knowledge in all aspects of life, in temples and art, in stories and traditions, in poetry and music. Long ago, I read about the Alexandria Library in Egypt and the effort King Ptolemy put in stocking it. It is supposed to have contained every book that was ever written at that time. It was supposed to have been the repository of the entire knowledge of the ancient world. Then one day Julius Caesar burnt it down and this knowledge was lost to the world. In our culture, knowledge was everywhere. People were its repository. It is the earliest example of distributed processing. That's why even thousands of years of destruction, wars, invasion have not destroyed it completely. We still have these tantalizing pieces of knowledge all around us, waiting to be uncovered. Thank you. That's it from me. Please like and subscribe. Do share your comments with me. Thank you once again. Until next week.